Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent. We talk about games and stuff here. Tend to be kind of critical, but we also try to hype up some stuff. And today we're talking about something that's very hyped, that deserves a little bit of a critical eye looking at it today. And we're going to be talking about Dragon Ball FighterZ. So yeah, tell me your thoughts and feelings about the game in this video and all the stuff we're talking about in the comments below. Would love to know, but I'm actually going to tell you my thoughts and feelings and my reply to somebody else's video content. This is a video by B Skyen, and it says, why does Dragon Ball FighterZ look so much like the anime? Animation breakdown. If you guys want to watch that video, links in the description. 25-minute video of this guy gushing over Dragon Ball FighterZ. I actually didn't watch all of it because my reply really only focuses on one very particular subject that I want to talk about. In fact, this video was conceptually designed as something to explain the animation styling of games like this, and it's kind of used in a lot of games that I talk about. I play a lot of online multiplayer games, especially MMOs, kind of utilize this technique where what I call staggered frame animation, where the game as a whole is running at a certain frame rate, 60 or higher FPS, but then very particular animations, and these are 3D games, so they're not sprites. But the animations are actually staggered, so that you might, instead of seeing a 60 FPS like sword swing, you're only seeing like 4 frames of that sword swing, which can be jarring, but generally it's used for optimization reasons. You know, like if there's hordes of enemies on your screen, it's gonna save on some CPU power, you know, some GPU power, or if something is very much in the distance, you don't need it to be rendered at a full, you know, 60 FPS, though I do notice it. And throughout my 5 years of reviewing a lot of, you know, massively multiplayer online games, that's what I would always say. I'd be like, oh, hey, that, you know, the frames right now, they're staggered on that monster. So, you know, a lot of people would worry that like, oh, the game's running shit on your strong PC. No, guys, don't worry. The game is actually really well optimized. It just looks like that because that's, you know, that's the technique. So I call it staggered frame animation. And this is used a lot in a lot of games for optimization reasons. And actually, as an aside, I was going to use Dragon Ball FighterZ as an example to explain the wrong way to do this technique, in my opinion. Of course, IMO. You might have some different thoughts and feelings. Of course, that's why, you know, YouTube's a forum. Let us know, guys. But I really wanted to get some footage of Dragon Ball FighterZ. I started watching a lot of it, and YouTube finally did its job and actually recommended this video to me. Why does Dragon Ball FighterZ look so much like the anime? Animation breakdown. And I knew, before I even clicked on this video, that this person would be applauding the frame rate of the animations because it's drawn, it's rendered at the frame rate of the anime. In my opinion, that's garbage. I will use that word. And you might say that's maybe a little bit harsh. Maybe, but it needs to stop. To me, whenever a 3D game, a game that you play in real time, is not animated in 60 FPS, that is a problem. That is the same as games having weird aspect ratios and having, you know, sort of like lowered and purposely capped FPS so that it feels more cinematic. That, if it's not used for optimization reasons, which I can understand, you know, Battlefield Bad Company on the Xbox had letterboxing. You couldn't play it at a full resolution because, you know, optimization reasons. But when a game uses those things for stylistic reasons, you know, so it feels more cinematic, or in this case, more similar to the animation, that's when I have a problem. Because I'm somebody who plays games. I mean, of course, sure, I watch streams and I create video game content so you guys can watch it, but I am a player. I play games. And to me, I feel like competitive fighting games, they do have an excuse for very specific frames being near instantaneous, because the games play very fast, you know? So certain frames, you don't need 60 frames for an animation in a punch that takes, you know, 1/3 of a second. It just, you know, it doesn't make sense, stuff like that. Some things can have a bit more impact if it's animated instantaneously in a single or just a few frames. I understand that as well. So for frame data fighters, it makes a little bit of sense to kind of have that as a pseudo mechanic slash aesthetic to an extent. But to the extent that it's used in Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's obvious. You guys can see the gameplay, you're seeing the footage now. You can clearly see that the characters, their idle animations are not 60 FPS. Their hit, you know, animations where they're actually being hit and you're stun locked, there's no reason why you would need to be, you know, rendered at 12 FPS or some bullshit like that, and yet that's what it looks like. And it's so weird here, and this is why I call it staggered frame animation, because it's not just like the game itself mechanically is played at a lower FPS than it's actually running, the whole engine. I'm actually talking about, if you look clearly, you can see different parts of the game running at different FPS. So sure, the whole game as a whole is running at 60 FPS. But then you'll see some particle effect that has like 4 frames of animation, and then you'll see another particle effect that seemingly has like infinite frames. It's moving super fast, maybe even at 60. And then you see their idle animations, which have, you know, basically a random amount, like a random frame rate, seemingly. And it just kind of makes the game, to me, it just kind of creates a lot of visual noise. It's a tremendous amount of visual noise to me. When something is moving at a certain speed and then some other particle effect is running at 60 and then this thing's running at 24 and this thing has only 4 frames, you're gonna see this a lot with the smoke. Like it looks like they draw the smoke. It's a 2D actual kind of sprite thrown across, so that looks like 4 FPS. And then the models themselves, the 3D models, are running at, I think, 24 FPS. The game as a whole is running at 60. And then some other things, it's just kind of ambiguous. And so that's what I'm talking about. It staggers the frames. So it's not just one or the other or kind of 2 thing. It's all sorts of confusing to me, and that's visual noise. And also, it's gonna mess with like timing. You know, it's a fighting game, the timing of things whenever they cut to a cinematic, you know, for the supers and so like transformations, that cinematic is not running at 60 FPS. Now, this is a big problem in a lot of console ports or just a lot of fighting games. Fighting games run at 60 FPS, but their cinematics, like in For Honor, Mortal Kombat, that I've personally played, those cinematics, like, you know, if you actually do a fatality, all of a sudden is gonna switch to a shit resolution, you know, it's gonna switch to like shit, you know, 24 FPS, when it could be rendered at 60 FPS. And why is it not just rendered in real time? And even if it's not rendered in real time, why isn't it just like a full FPS? You know, if you're just gonna play a video file, why isn't it just, you know, fucking good? Like, what if it's not rendered in full time? Just make it fucking good. That is very confusing to me, friends. I don't understand that, and I do not applaud that. And yet people like B Skyen, the first thing they say, like as soon as the trailer starts and as his video starts, he says, "Fuck the hell yes." He is so pumped, so excited, so hyped for how Dragon Ball FighterZ looks so much like the anime. And he's not wrong, it does. But there's way more to the game that makes it look like the anime than its frame rate capping on the animation. And he applauds. He applauds the fact, and many people applaud and are hyped at the fact that they are purposely limiting the frames of the animation so that it matches the anime. But this is a video game. And you know what's weird is that there's tons of other anime-inspired games that actually don't do this. In fact, there's a Dragon Ball, like MMO-ish action RPG kind of thing that you can go play, Xenoverse, that doesn't have that. Now, there's a number of reasons why that kind of steps away from the, you know, animation quality isn't that great, but it's still 60 FPS. You know, its cell shading, its overall art style isn't as good as this game. That makes sense, but it's still 60 FPS. So if we could just have, you know, all of this, you know, the cinematography, if we could have this art style, this aesthetic, if we could have the way these characters look, but at 60 FPS, would that really make it not look like an anime? How would you know? Because there's very rare instances of a game that looks this close to the anime and then still runs at 60 FPS. Now, I'm somebody who watches a lot of anime, okay? I do play fighting games. And I see a lot of 3D anime as well. So I have this nice mix of seeing all these different animation techniques and seeing how much of a trend it is becoming to have a 3D or CGI animation in games or otherwise, and having it purposefully rendered at lower FPS for essentially arbitrarily artistic reasons, which doesn't actually make sense. Knights of Sidonia on actually a lot on Netflix. Aijin as well. You have Blam. You have all sorts of 3D CGI animations that look like not great. You know, maybe when actually even when it is standstill, it's still not that great. But, you know, when it's actually animated in the action, it's not 60 FPS. Actually, in those cases, Blam and Knights of Sidonia had staggered animation because sometimes it would ramp up to 60 FPS, which is fucking confusing. Why would you make the characters who are barely moving render at 24 FPS, but then certain giant monsters who have all these intricate moving parts, then it's 60 FPS? What the fuck? This game's the same. It's like just so give and take. And why? In movies, in TV shows, in, you know, these games, I don't get it. It's so bewildering to me. But especially in video games. Especially in video games. When you have to actually play it, why would you have something so jarring and create such visual noise and inaccuracy in a competitive game? Why? For the sake of the art style? No. A game is a game first, to me. Especially a competitive game. I want to play my game, and I want to see it at a pure 60 FPS. Now again, I know there are reasons why certain frames of certain attacks and things in fighting games might not be a full 60 FPS. I understand that. So take away that argument, and just the idle animations. You know, idle animations, the cinematics of this game. Why? Why is it? Don't say optimization. There's just no way. There's just no way. It's not for optimization, it's for artistic reasons, and everyone's hyping it up when really, as a gamer myself, and as fellow gamers who I'm assuming is watching this video, and if you are a fan of anime, even still, you should not want lower FPS. You should not. Higher FPS in animation is always better. Now, I want you to go watch Knights of Sidonia or Aizen on Netflix, and then go watch the new Gaunt's. Or go watch, you know, like any other, like Final Fantasy CGI. Look at that. Look at that. There's a difference between low frame rate, like you're watching it at 24 FPS, most likely, you know, but the animations themselves are not skipping around. The animations are animated smoothly, but the video itself can be, you know, played much lower. So that's the issue. And B Skyen actually applauds this game for, you know, having the staggered animation, for purposely skipping around as if it was drawn in 2D. And to me, that is the equivalent of like if somebody were to just do like one of those paint filters on Instagram. Oh, I painted a self-portrait, but they just did a filter. That's basically what this is. No, you're not hand drawing an animation. No, you have a 3D model, you have a 3D game, and you're purposefully limiting it from its potential, in my opinion, so that it seems more like the anime, when that is actually a bad thing. The only reason anime has such low frame rates and has all sorts of weird artistic artifacts is not actually for the art. It's because that's their budget limitations. That's what it is. That's their time limitations, their skill limitations. They can only do so much with hand-drawn animations. And when we go into 3D and you have the model and you're purposefully, like, you create the animation and the animation could be smooth and you're purposely staggering it, I do not applaud that. In fact, I call that garbage. I call that childish and immature. And I think that we, as the human species, after all of this, dude, after we've seen so many games do it right, so many animations do it right, and then we still kind of, I don't know what this is. Is this taking the easy way out? People are applauding this for, you know, artistic vision, but to me, I say it's not. I say it's kind of taking an easy way out, and it's a way to just not have to animate. It's a way to just bypass a whole lot of stuff. I don't know. I think we could do better. And that's really what the rant is. So B Skyen, thanks for the video. I'm gonna finish watching the rest of it because I think you made a lot of cool points. I just do not entirely agree with applauding the fact that it has staggered animations. That is reserved for optimization. That is reserved for very specific mechanics, very specific instances. And I don't think that an entire game having, you know, back and forth random frames, especially a competitive game, I don't think that's healthy. I think, yeah. That's pretty much it. That's what I think. Please let me know your guys' thoughts and feelings and opinions in the comments below. I'm sure I'm gonna get a whole lot of, well, you're gonna get used to it, or, oh, you're just being picky. Well, then fine. You can continue to watch your 12 FPS CGI anime like Berserk 2017, and I'm gonna go be reading manga because I applaud true art and true passion and true innovation and true hard work. That's what I do. Not saying Dragon Ball FighterZ is going to be a bad game, or that it is actually not hard work and that it's not actually doing work, because there is a lot of cool hype shit about it. But this is one thing that I'm not going to budge on, that I'm not going to change my mind, and I'm tired of seeing it as a trend, artistic trend. You know, if we're vocal, we can change things. Just like we have wider FOVs now in FPSs. We have higher overall FPS optimizations on consoles and otherwise, like Halo, 60 FPS now. Amazing, fantastic. We overall have higher resolutions. We have more comfortable gameplay because people were vocal, like Total Biscuit and Gemquisition, people like that. If we're not vocal, and if we pretend it's a non-issue, then we're gonna continue wasting money and having not as good products as we could. So keep that in mind, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you have fun. And if you play Dragon Ball FighterZ, which I'm going to too, let's all have fun together, okay? So there's still hype. We're still keeping it alive. All right, guys. And I'll see you next time.